The Battle of the Coming Dark. Ooh, all right. Now, what would be something taboo? What is something that you should not say or do during this holiday? Whether it's a day or like a night, or it's a week, right? The 12 days of Christmas are a thing for a reason. But during this holiday period, what would be a taboo? What is something that culturally or religiously would be seen as indignant, offensive, or inviting some kind of trouble? One of the statues in an unknown soldier memorial, which honors the volunteers who came from far away to fight and die for our freedom. There you go. And if you want the pyramid to be, if not a sealing away an angel to tap for its light and radiation, that could just be an unknown, like the Tomb of the Unknown Soldiers kind of a thing. It could very well be that. So in the tradition, I know we say no seafood allowed. That could be a taboo as well, where, I mean, there's no seafood. You are going to get a stern talking to, young man or young lady, if you have a parent catching you sneaking, a raw oyster or something. Seafood, probably something like, you know what? Dwarves and gnomes have dark vision. No lights. Well, so how about this, Iron Chef? I think you and I were thinking the same thing, but instead of something like oil lamps or magic spells or candles, gnomes, consider this too. This is a part of their culture. They can see in the dark, if only in black and white. So let's make sure that this is a holiday that is an extension of the people who celebrate it. And in this case, no lights. So no going out during the day and no lights at night. Does that make sense, Iron Chef? Maybe the pyramid is part of the old festival of the coming dark holiday, but the heroic statue honors the people who died on that holiday 100 or however many years ago, and maybe different cultures pay different amounts of respect to the two different events. Well, especially if this has become a major trading port, there might be people who send delegations or just merchants who make their living here who show appreciation for those who created that opportunity in these islands. Now, if what you're saying is what we want, Delport, a common symbol could be triangles, pyramids, and possibly even eyes for being watchful for the dark vision. You know, I mean, I know there's no attachment to a false religion or prophecy or you know, the Masons or but maybe, just bear with me, everyone, maybe maybe an illuminated pyramid could play into this somehow. Much love to all of you who are Freemasons, by the way. Or if you are from the Simpsons universe, the Stonecutters. Led by Patrick Stewart, actually, if I recall correctly. Well, his voice was the leader character, but All right, now if we go off of this, of this idea, Iron Chef, I would argue that the common colors, if all we're doing is seeing in grayscale, or if you want to go old school and do like infravision where everything is black and red, or if any of you had the old Virtual Boy and it's black and red that way, it depends. What are the colors that people see? Or is it different? Do dwarves see in black and red, and gnomes see in green and red, like modern night vision goggles? If that's the case, then we almost have Christmas colors. So there's a lot of reds and greens depending on who can enjoy it. However, at any given point in time, half of the people, or however you delineate the demographics, will be able to see them. And so in this case, patterns make up more of the color / design than the colors themselves. And so we might have, for Halloween, right, keeping it autumnal, pumpkins, the outline of a ghost or a skull, ooh, scary. Oktoberfest would be the shape of a mug of beer or a barrel. And as other fall holidays come to mind, it is what it is. Just a falling leaf for the autumnal equinox, things like that. And so the common colors might be red, green, and black if each of the if the different races can see things differently. Although there is a commonality where they both do see black as well. But in this case, it would be more about the patterns, because it'll be 6 to 1/2, half dozen to the other, black and gray, in a sense, or it'll be black and gray, but also green and black and red and black, depending on how it is. Anyway. There's no secret society, says Osric the Dwarf. Delport says, concern the gnomes being in control using wealth and technology has vague similarities to anti-Semitic tropes. Might be a good idea to put some thought into how to break up those tropes to differentiate we're writing. Well, Delport, look, I get that people can make those assertions. These are not coming from a place of any sort of hate, and at the same time, personally, I do not want to, I want to think creatively and to come up with interesting ideas. Not that we can't be aware of that, but I also don't want to empower stereotypes or tropes by feeding them, by feeding into the stereotypes. It's, in my opinion, and you all are absolutely welcome to differ, this is not what we have created, especially through the randomization and everything else. Now, of course, we all have the context because we're here for it. I don't understand why in any particular way, I can see where people could make that, but how far of a stretch is that? Or is someone really trying to make the stereotype true and reinforce the stereotype by bringing it up, when instead we're actually creating our own, there's a reason for this all. It has nothing to do with real life, where we don't have magic harnessing pyramids and volcanoes, and we have volcanoes, but in all of this. So I do agree, at some point, where's the line in the sand? And it is okay to be aware of it and to bring up a caution. I also don't want to fuel stereotypes or to empower the negativity that can come with it, because we can do some amazing things with what we have here, and keep real life as absolutely far away from it as possible. Because I don't play fantasy games to think about real life. We might have some attachments. Like, we started with talking about real life holidays. It's good to understand, the general thinkings of things. It might be different if I said, oh yeah, this is a 1-for-1, like, we are going to celebrate Hanukkah, and this is going to be about a source of light lasting blah, blah, blah. In that case, that's a direct attachment. But here, the whole point is an original fantasy setting. And if things match up for some people, but not others, where do we draw the line? Well, I get it, Delport. At the same time, we also don't know where those lines are for other people. Because with how that's written, I'm sure there's someone on Twitter who will absolutely just lose their minds over this, because they assign, in their mind, in only their minds, they assign what we've created with, this is literally, hateful or something. Now, we've created, hopefully, a straw man, and that this would not come to be. But do we empower that person by feeding into their inability to comprehend or to see our context, to see our creation, or to think further, or to think about nothing more than people as stereotypes, and therefore will always hold people to stereotypes? I just don't want to empower that kind of thinking. And that person is welcome to that opinion. It doesn't mean that opinion is accurate or is a reflection of what has happened. Now, conversely, there may be people who it is a super thinly veiled, absolutely horrible trope or stereotype, where everything is this except the one thing, and then they go, well, this one thing means it's clearly not this. But in this case, we did start by talking about real life, but ultimately what we're creating is fantasy, and is an original fantasy setting that is removed from our real lives. We understand the process by which we think, and the process by which we come to celebrate a variety of different things all around the world. And this is one corner of a fantasy world. And so, yeah, I'm probably lecturing. I don't mean to sound browbeating to you, Delport, or anyone out there. It can be, sure, it is a concern. How big of a concern? Well, considering that we are not in any way trying to lean into a stereotype, it's going to be someone else's problem. If they are seeing, if all they can see in other people is a list of like those adjectives, those stereotypes and tropes, that's a lot more of their problem. Because in our heart and our soul and our production that we are putting on here in this workshop, and I want to be clear to everyone out there, there's absolutely no underlying connections. Can connections be made? Sure, circumstances can happen, I suppose. Is there a course correction if things are getting a little too close? Delport brought up a concern and opened up as such concern. But I also want you all to be creative. And to think about things and to try and come up with these ideas, which may have real life parity. Like P-A-R-I-T, like they're on... they're like parallels. Maybe I'll put it that way. Not P-A-R-O-D-Y, but parody is a thing too. And is a tool that does require, a cautious wielding. But yeah, for what we're doing tonight, could, yes, but where is the line in the sand for could? And I love that we are coming up with this cool stuff. Like, how many of us have thought about the dark vision that gnomes and dwarves have, and that actually plays into the colors of this holiday? How often do we have that as a consideration beyond, I guess, going into the meme of the DM describes you walk into a dark room and everyone goes, I have dark vision. And how do you describe that? Well, in a society, in a civilization where people can see in the dark, and where darkness in this case was essential to a military or even like a quasi cosmic conflict. Aha. Let's work that into the culture, because then as we present it, that would be something I hope, Delport, that you would see would be a clear distancing from anything remotely real life. So, I don't know, Delport, hopefully I satisfied your concern and I addressed it. For any of you out there as well, I mean, I hope that I was able to address your concern as well. Because I definitely don't want anything here taken as being derogatory or somehow spiteful towards real life, when this is a hobby about imagination and fantasy that draws on elements of it, but ultimately I hope we're creating our own context in our own world, in our own presentations of it. It's thought about, and the line is seen by both people who see the line. I'm not going to draw it. And I'm not saying where it is. But people can say a lot of things about a lot of different things. Whether they're right or wrong, it's really going to be a case by case basis. And I want to be careful not to stifle the creative process, especially if we know in our hearts and souls that this is absolutely not that this is not something that is effective of real life peoples or beliefs or things along those lines. Especially because even people who may be affected are going to have different opinions, in which case, whose opinion is the superior one? Ultimately, even within there, where's the line drawn? And it just turns into a whole big thing that stifles. It can stifle creativity. So the thoughtfulness is absolutely a part of it. The great power of being able to create universes and mold societies and build economies, and to you are as a god in your own world. That is great power. And Delport, with that, there is a responsibility as well. And I'm glad then that, I mean, I'm happy you brought it up, and I'm glad that you did. Because I am in no way, I might be emphatically speaking, but I'm not yelling, especially not at you. We have the great infinite cosmic power. Yes, all the realms and spheres of influence, and the very forces of nature and magic and the divine are at our control. And then when it comes time to presentation, was there a responsibility with the great power that you wielded? So, I guess important, a tangent, but an important tangent thrown in there is that during this creation process, in our excitement, in our brainstorming, in our in the things that we want to come up with what we have in front of us, staying in that fantasy world, it is good to come up for a breath of air every now and again. And then we can go back down into the waters and continue to explore these wonderful worlds that we create together. Now, common decorations has a difference between something like the common symbols. Symbols could be religious or civic. They could be, they are the shapes that we see. Um, the decorations, though, would be the difference between seeing a ghost emoji for Halloween and actually carving a jack-o'-lantern for display. If we're talking about something that's seaside, and that is maybe there's some sort of crab or other shellfish that, while it is, the seafood is not to be eaten, but that doesn't mean that it can't be caught and harvested for a time afterwards. And so maybe there's also some sort of like a food that's like a 24-hour stew where the stuff is put into the pot and it's not eaten until, afterwards. But everyone puts the shells out. Or it could be something that is, if it's not a bounty of the sea, it could be something with the rock of the land. Something that is, rocks aren't necessarily seasonal per se, but it might be every family has like a family stone, and every time this holiday comes about, they scratch another notch into it, and that could be their decoration. And they go back and maybe they paint the past notches to make them red or green. Maybe it's whatever they see, if that infravision or whatever your version of dark vision is, then they can go back and paint it. Of course, it could fade over the year. That's part of the part of the renewal, right? Similar to what we see with, and again, a real world concept, but we're going to take it into the fantasy realm. We see this in cultures all around the world with Dia de los Muertos, where it is, fixing up the graves, where it is attending, washing gravestones. This happens in Japan as well, I think. Correct me if I'm mistaken. I believe that the time when families go out to wash gravestones is around Obon, which, depending on where you're at in Japan, is either late July or sometime in August. Again, correct me if I'm mistaken. So it could be that, especially if we have a war memorial of this statue. And that could even be the big central thing where everyone goes out, and every year that statue is scrubbed, stem to stern, nose to toes, because there's going to be bird poop on it. This is seaside. There's probably going to be seaside gulls or other birds, or just the weathering that takes place. It could be lichens. It could be, I don't know, some sort of a barnacle that has adapted to, just be mostly dry, but the brine wind sustains them. And so it could even be something along those lines. And so common decorations could even be mini statues. It could be the hearthstones from each family's home laid to rest around the statue, eventually entombing it. Ooh. So they, I see. So as the more families come and go, they're actually building up to eventually bury the statue itself. And you know what's interesting? We often think of statues as being upright. But Grogran, maybe you made an interesting point, and especially going off of what Delport was talking about. If this is a statue to the unknowns, or to the people who never got to be thanked for their service, what if the giant statue is actually one that is laying down? And so the family headstones are what is generation after generation after generation, slowly starting to build a sarcophagus or a vault of some kind around the resting statue. That could be very interesting, Grogran. A pyramid, you say? Dun dun dun. So common foods here, if the tradition was no seafood and that was the taboo, and the tradition was maybe to forge that thankfulness with the people from other lands, to have that sense of unity for helping them win against whatever force was invading these snowy, icy islands. Honestly, the common food, there might not necessarily be one. It's whatever's brought in, and it could even be, depending on how long this has taken. What if people to try and use this place as a cultural hub or as a central market will try and outdo each other, and so really the common foods are never the same, because every year people bring in different recipes. And so the common food is the fact that it is never the same food twice. So there we go. It's never the same food. The others who use the island for trade always seem to bring in exotic recipes to the locals and season them with ingredients not normally found, or would be found later after this test taste. Samosas, says Grogrin. How about some migrant? Oh, right. If we're talking about a seasonal change, if we're talking about autumn, especially... so maybe there's some sort of in original style. Maybe it's a bird with 4 wings, or 4 wings and 4 feet, or something. But we have some sort of a migratory bird that either passes over or leaves the island for the winter around this time. You know, is it the what is it? The swallows of Capistrano? I tried to do the Bugs Bunny accent. I don't think it turned out too well. Or perhaps pizza with different toppings. Yes, very. Oh, there we go. And yet, so that they're triangles, yet together we make a whole. Grogrin. So the invention of the concept of pizza in this world. And there's a few more things to fill in too, things to think about. In this time of year, do we have sayings or greetings? It could be a simple equivalent of, hey, happy Halloween. Or if it's an Oktoberfest style, cheers. We could make up our own Dwarvish or Gnomish language. Or some kind of a fusion of the two. And maybe that is this world's equivalent of undercommon. Whereas common might be the trade tongue that is spoken by those who visit the island, and a lot of people on the island can speak the common tongue, but those who live under the under the land, the gnomes and the dwarves, it is undercommon, for a broad sense. But these could be well-wishings. These could be things like what do you say in passing? Even if it's something like, that every time it is getting close to Thanksgiving, in Canada or the US, and everyone just says cold enough for you. Or if it plays into the migratory bird, maybe there's something with very beautiful plumage, or it just stands out, or it is the sign of the season changing. There could be a seasonal or a holiday expression that is as the birds fly, which is, maybe it's very easygoing, or it's a very directive statement. Like, oh, yeah, hey, it's good to see you out on the street. Like, hey, you better get while you can, because we got the holiday coming up. Like, yep, I know, as the birds fly. And so that's just something seasonal in recognition of the season of the holiday. With this as well, we probably hear a lot of people, if we say that the elves were a people who came in, and maybe ultimately there was that sacrifice for the betterment, and while it led to the one being destroyed or driven off or whatever, there could be something that would be similar to good eating, or to our health, or some kind of a cheer, or even a reflection, because you have shouts of cheers or prost or kampai, but you also have prayers that don't always have to be religious prayers, but a thoughtfulness, let's thank the people for our food. So you may not be thanking a deity for your food, but you could be thanking the traders or the people in other lands who have vast farms and can grow this stuff and bring it here. Or thank the captains for our food, or something like the phrase itadakimasu in Japanese, which is an abbreviation of a reflection on the source of your food, giving thanks to the land for the vegetables, giving thanks to the life of the animal that provided you the meat, being thankful to the person who prepared the food. As there is, it's not quite like a Thanksgiving, but it is just simply take a moment, recognize where in the world we are, and how this has gotten here. Be thankful for what brought this drink or this meal here, or at least be mindful about it, and understand that there are processes that are greater than we might understand, and whether or not we know it right now, maybe we can become mindful of it and be a part of it, or at least as the recipient at the end of the process, just have that moment of, yes, thank you. So something like mindful of our meal could be a saying or a greeting that we hear around this time of year. Mindful, be mindful, mindfulness, something along those lines. Which, in other regards, it's a never forget, or it's a, it's the quick rub-a-dub-dub, thanks for the grub, or it is more of a fervent prayer. Though, of course, we have our main religion being to this a temple to a false deity, So maybe a force that is not a force with a conscience or a conscientiousness, but it could be to a system of machines, a system of how the sheer economics of this place work, with all of the trading that happens, and the fact that this little, that this island nation went to be a very interesting waypoint to so many people. Could even be the celebration of like a breaking of some embargo or something that others had, and this other place was left alone until they weren't. I don't know. Lots of things. Something else to propose to you all out there. Is there a song title? You don't have to have the lyrics for it. Though as a DM, if you're describing going down the street and there's a group of people who are traveling and singing, can you at least describe what they're singing about? Or can you have it be so that your players are walking past when the conductor or the leader of the a cappella group or whatever goes, "All right, everyone, now we're going to sing, this holiday classic, blah." And you as the DM don't have to sing it, or if you want to sing it and you have lyrics, I mean, hey, cool. That really will immerse your players. A really fun scene out of Star Trek Deep Space Nine was when it was Bashir. Oh, who is Bashir with? But anyway, Bashir went to a Klingon restaurant, and the chef came out and serenaded them in Klingon. And yeah, I don't know. I had no idea what was being sung about, but my gosh, like that, because we're so used to a stoicism or a gruff warrior aesthetic. It's good to know and see that, hey, they also have song, and they also have this, the proprietor going around and singing while eating. And even if it's not a native thing to Klingons, maybe this was something that the Klingon loved, that concept from Earth, and more like the classic Italian serenade, or just loves a band playing while eating, maybe something like a mariachi band, and is actually trying to express a human from Earth culture as a fan of that culture, just as people on Earth are fans of these other cultures that existed as well. But that was a really cool moment. I didn't have to understand the song, but it was just cool to see and hear. What if we twist that a bit? Maybe the deity isn't false, it's deceased. A native spirit who legends say sacrificed itself in ancient times to provide something for the people. Honor to your kitchen, yes, Delport. I suppose. I mean, look, ultimately anything is anything. If you got a good idea and it makes your world work, that's fine. Based on the prompt of a false deity, priests, charlatan priests make up the clergy. I think I could still see that by stepping sideways, as you hope that your prayers are heard by a god or a goddess, and maybe in this fantasy setting, a god or a goddess, that is living and can answer and will confer benefits to you because of that. In this case, though, you have these facilitators of the religion that really are asking for true faith, because in many D&D worlds, it's very polytheistic. There's no doubt that the gods exist, because people get magic powers from them and miracles occur in front of other people all the time. And so having this culture of actual faith where you're believing in something that doesn't exist, like that's a big ask for a lot of people. And that could end up being a backbone to things too. Or, you know, if it's deceased, or it's unable to answer, you know, is it a Cthulhu, you know, sleeping beneath the waves? Maybe there's an association with some sort of not understood animism, where the volcano doesn't erupt anymore, and everyone hopes that it never does. But there's this concept that the volcano perhaps was alive, or was a deity or a spirit, a very strong spirit of some kind, in an animistic sense. But the volcano has not been active for as long as anyone knows, and I mean, dwarves and gnomes live a good long while, keep records. So that's not a bad idea, Delport. And I do think if that adds to your story and your world, even if you want to stick with what is rolled, or you go, you know, I really want to take it in this bend, comma, but how can we add some accent to it? So I do encourage, if you can come up with things like song titles or the type of song it is. So it could be, if this is some type of a wartime epic, it could be something as simple as and we are being rated by Coffee Cat Presents. Welcome, Coffee Cat and the Vampires of Austin, Texas, who are playing in the Vampire 5th Edition Chronicle, Austin by Starlight. So if we have an idea like this, hold me close, mama, and we say it's a wartime comfort chant. So in that regard, maybe someone at some point during this war just needed comfort when all heck was breaking loose, and said this over and over again, came up with some little lyrics and a phrase, and it spread, because we all, you know, we all need moments of comfort in duress. Is it a happy holiday song? Not necessarily, but it's something that comes around every time this year, and we have a reflection on who and what happened way back when. Common clothing, it can go into things too, like symbols and colors around this time. If this is hurricane season, right? If we're talking about the autumn and it's hurricane season, maybe common clothing, people who go outside wear some kind of slicks, or there's some kind of, I don't know, we will make up what is a hurricane helmet? It's a helmet designed to do something. Maybe it has some sort of a face shield, or it's designed that you can, like, it helps to get the wind, like, off of your face. It could be something where, because if we're talking about, like, technology, and people who might have unlocked, you know, the secrets of glass and whatnot, maybe it's something you wear on your head, and it's a visor. It'll go over your face and help protect you from the wind, just through the invention of bulk glass, which will advance society greatly. Or it's sealed over. Maybe there was something about direct viewing of enemy magics or enemies or something. I don't know, whatever. And it's actually something almost like a welding helmet, but you look through reflective mirrors. And so there's these mirrors that act as a way to look out, and so people wear it, but the wind won't hit you, the rain won't hit you, and in the light, in the light of this force, maybe that had a way of baffling it. Or it just looks like a modern fireman's helmet that has the long back to protect the neck as rocks would fall, as hurricane force winds would blow against the mountain, and that could cause some tumbles, especially with the rain coming down, rock slides, or if you're in the coastal area and the wind and the salt are blowing up in your face, there could be a visor to it as well. So common clothing, this could be more practical, or if there's a special, I don't know, if there's something special that it was some sort of a military service helmet that went into civil service as a hurricane helmet, but people wear it for the military origination, despite the fact that it's a very common thing now. This is big as well, everyone. Common sense. Our sense of smell is the only sense that's directly wired into our brain. The others have to go through our crummy old spinal cords and all this other processing. Forget about it. Smell is a very powerful thing for us. And there are even people with Alzheimer's that have been observed to, if a pumpkin pie is put under their nose, they can unlock a memory of a Thanksgiving that they didn't talk about since beginning the decline into full Alzheimer's. As a DM, I highly recommend include scents with your descriptions of places, because it can do a lot to immerse us as your players. And especially during different times of year. I mean, around this time, and I don't know when y'all are watching this. Hi, YouTube, in the future. What are the scents that we smell around this time of year? What, pine? Pine's a common one. Depending on what your house cooks for whatever holiday, if any holiday you celebrate, then you go, yep, you know what? Every year is whatever. You have a grandparent that makes the most comforting, warm mole. It fills you up, it warms you, and it doesn't necessarily have to be it doesn't have to be like a Christmas time or like an oncoming of winter food. For you, it warms your soul and unlocks memories. And if I were to describe to you the smell of mole, or make some sort of to take the effect but translate it into whatever like local thing that we're building. Very much so, Tio. And around different seasons, again, there are different scents that come out. And lastly, something for you to consider: is there a secondary story to your holiday? Is there a secondary story? The classic example I use is Christmas is primarily celebrated for the birth of Jesus. However, there's a strong secondary story with the existence and the myth and folklore that have built up around St. Nicholas, Santa Claus, who has become entwined with Christmas for sure, and is a part of Christmas for a great many people all around the world, though Christmas is not about Santa. If you look at the primary story versus the secondary. And there's other things as well. We have so many different holidays where there's something else that could happen, or that is considered to take place alongside it, or has developed within the realm of this observation or this holiday and is a part of it, even if it wasn't around during the original, inception or was the cause of the holiday, but now it is just a part of it. So these are things that I would urge you all to think about when you're making your own worlds and your own holidays, as you're going through this process and you want to present something where you go, I don't want to just do another Western European setting. I like parts of it, but I also don't want it to be that. Which goes to what Delport did bring up as well. In this process, hey, come up for air every now and again and make sure that things are okay. Because it, even inadvertently, I mean, you might think you're getting close to something, or someone else might think that you're getting close to something. Whether or not you are, hey, come up for air from from the project every once in a while. And especially as you go and you discover all of the breadth and depth of everything that's around us, and then you want to add that one extra thing that maybe we can't really comprehend. You want to make it fantastic. You want to put that fantastic into the fantasy of this place, and that's what makes it literally or metaphorically magical. Or that will just provide a cohesive backdrop against which you can tell a story, because everything in it is going to make sense. A group of humans walk through town, no lights are on, but everyone seems to be going about their business. That's odd, what's going on? And why is it everyone's wearing green and red? Well, if these people who don't have dark vision, they may not see, again, literally or metaphorically, they may not see what's happening around them. But when you explain it and it's discovered in this process of revelation known as storytelling, then wow, that's really cool, friend or family member DM. Or I really like that. I got what you were presenting when you were talking about a seaside, because I don't know, maybe this group playing through this lives in Maine, right on the Atlantic, lobster all day every day, that sort of, and of course Eldritch horror, all day every day in Maine. And much of what you describe might be from your memories of living in Maine, because that's where you were born and raised, or you moved and you've been there for a while, whatever. And you can present things in a way where there might be, there's a feel of Maine. You can describe the smell of the sea. You can describe the colors of the leaves in fall, or things like that. And while that is a vague, an ultimate, like a base of things that many people can relate to, you then build on top of that and you give it your own spice. It's not just not Maine. No, this is this is the realm of Lasco. Or I'm sorry, Oxel. This is my original fantasy realm, Oxel. And it becomes yours, and not just a not Western Europe, a not Maine, a not whatever. All right. Well, thank you for your ideas, Delport. And again, I hope you understood that I wasn't rejecting what you had put forward earlier. I embraced it, but I also wanted to make sure that if this had come up, that there was an absolute clarity about the situation. And Honey Bunny, howdy to you. Thank you for joining us. And so lean into this, because you can do this through what? We brought up one internet site, technically two, I guess, that talked about different holidays around the world as examples, some different foods. We used some common understandings of the availability, like why do we eat the things we do around this time of year, because of geography, because of the particular climate of that season, because of who these people are, by how they were formed, by nature, nurture, through history, through conflict, through success. And you start from that very baseline. Speaking of pyramids, we start from a very basic understanding of things that we can agree on, and then all of a sudden towards the top we get to red and green clothing that not everyone can actually see. And so it's more about the patterns, because of the fact that we don't want light during this time. We want the light to be away, to remember those times of war. And pardon me, and instead we're relying on our dark vision. And if visitors don't have dark vision, well, they can go to bed early that night, or maybe there's some sort of a special, like a special economic zone or a part of the port where light is allowed, because it's like if you're on the island interior, we're going to ask that you respect us and our beliefs and culture, but we get it because we rely on a lot of you who trade and you may not have this ability. And so we will let you have light in this corner over here, so that you can observe the things that you do, again, literally or metaphorically, and you can still function or just spend your evening. With us having the lights out, you can still spend an evening somewhere that keeps them on for you. Yeah, this is Invisible Mountain, Coffee Cat. I figured if we're talking about a mountainous area, this would be a good track to play, and I needed to calm down, because I was very, very feisty earlier tonight for a lot of different reasons. I wasn't spitting too many hot takes, I hope. I don't know. My mods weren't, like, but I was definitely in a mood, and I needed to find some music that was going to be very this, because I just had so much energy and frustration from things in the day that it had to just pour, not even drip, not even bleed. I had to pour it into something creative. What is a mini? So Bunny, when a lot of people roleplay, in order to represent their character in a particular area or situation, they will have a miniature. For example, let me turn on the camera real quick for you. So if you are playing an elven druid, you might want this little figurine here, a miniature or a mini, to represent your character, especially if you want to position yourself on a battlefield for a big fight, or honestly, you just love painting minis, and you wanted to pursue that hobby. And so there's that for monsters and characters and everything.